was a gray and rainy morning as the small community gathered at the local cemetery. Among them was a little girl named Lily, clutching a worn teddy bear tightly to her chest. Lily, only 7 years old, stood near the edge of the group, her innocent face streaked with silent tears. Her mother, a single parent who had worked tirelessly to make ends meet, had passed away after a long battle with illness. Now Lily was left alone in a world that seemed far too big and unkind. "Calls you," answered the voice softly. "Have you any shell?" The sad voice. The funeral was modest but heartfelt. Neighbors spoke of the mother's unwavering kindness and resilience, while friends shared anecdotes of her love for Lily. But even in this sea of well-wishers, there was a deep void, one that couldn't be filled by words or gestures. Unbeknownst to most, a figure stood at the back of the crowd, observing quietly. Johnny Depp, the world-famous actor, had arrived unannounced, wearing a simple black suit and a wide-brimmed hat to shield himself from recognition. He had never met Lily's mother personally, but her story had reached him through a letter from a mutual acquaintance. The letter described a woman who had faced immense hardship with grace and who had always put her daughter first, even in the face of her terminal illness. Johnny watched as the pastor concluded the ceremony, and the small crowd began to disperse. His eyes remained fixed on Lily, who now stood alone by the gravesite, her small frame looking even more fragile. In the drizzling rain, as the last of the mourners departed, Johnny finally approached the gravesite, removing his hat as he stepped forward. "Hi there," he said softly, his voice warm and gentle. Lily turned, startled by the presence of the stranger. Her big, tear-filled eyes met his, and for a moment there was only silence. "Who are you?" she asked, clutching her teddy bear even tighter. "My name's Johnny," he replied with a small smile. "I heard about your mom, and I just wanted to pay my respects." He paused. Lily nodded, her gaze shifting back to the freshly laid flowers on her mother's grave. "She was the best," she whispered, "but now she's gone." Johnny knelt down so he was at her eye level. "I know it hurts," he said gently. "But I promise you, she's still with you. In your heart, in the memories you have together. She'll always be a part of you." Lily nodded again, though her tears continued to fall. Johnny hesitated for a moment before reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small, intricately carved wooden pendant. "This was given to me when I was about your age," he explained, handing it to her. "Whenever I missed someone I loved, I'd hold on to it and remember all the happy times we had. Maybe it can do the same for you." Lily looked at the pendant, her tiny fingers tracing the carved details. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As Johnny stood, he made a silent vow to himself. He couldn't change what had happened, but he could ensure that Lily wasn't left to face the world alone. After the funeral, the small town quickly returned to its usual rhythm, but for Lily, life was anything but normal. She was taken in by her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Collins, a kind but frail woman who lived alone. Though Mrs. Collins did her best to provide for Lily, her limited resources and declining health made the arrangement far from ideal. Lily, who had once been full of life and laughter, now spent her days in quiet solitude, clutching the wooden pendant Johnny had given her. Johnny Depp couldn't shake the image of Lily from his mind. Her eyes, so filled with pain, yet brimming with resilience, haunted him. As he sat in his Los Angeles home, surrounded by the trappings of his fame, he realized that for all his success, there were things money couldn't buy. He couldn't bring back Lily's mother, but he could make a difference in her life. Lily, determined to act, Johnny contacted his team to gather information about Lily's situation. He learned that her mother had left behind a mountain of medical bills, and Mrs. Collins, though kind-hearted, was struggling to provide even the basics for the child. Moved by the gravity of the situation, Johnny decided it was time to intervene directly. The next weekend, Johnny boarded a private flight back to the small town, determined to see Lily again. He arrived unannounced at Mrs. Collins' modest home, a small, weathered house on the edge of town. When the elderly woman answered the door, she was understandably stunned to find one of the most famous actors in the world standing on her porch. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Collins," Johnny began, his tone humble and respectful. "I'm here about Lily." Mrs. Collins invited him in, her hands trembling as she poured him a cup of tea. She explained how she was doing her best to care for the little girl, but admitted her limitations. "She's a sweet child," Mrs. Collins said, her voice heavy with concern. "But she's been through so much. I just wish I could do more for her." Johnny listened intently, his heart aching with each word. "You've done more than most people would," he assured her. "But I think it's time someone else stepped in to help." That evening, Johnny took Lily to a nearby park to talk. She seemed hesitant at first, unsure why this man, a stranger to her, was taking such an interest in her life. But as they walked, Johnny spoke to her not as a celebrity, but as someone who genuinely cared. "Lily," he said gently, kneeling beside her, "I know things have been really hard for you, and I know I can't replace your mom. But I want you to know that you're not alone. You deserve to dream, to laugh, to have a life full of love and opportunities." Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of hope. "But why?" she asked. "Why do you care about me?" Rock said, "Everyone cares." She looked away, her eyes wide. Johnny smiled softly. "Because everyone deserves someone to care about them. And because your mom's story reminded me of someone I cared about very much." Over the next few days, Johnny worked quietly but tirelessly to set up a better future for Lily. He paid off all her mother's medical debts, ensuring that Mrs. Collins no longer had to worry about finances. He also contacted a trusted child welfare organization to help secure the best care and opportunities for Lily. Most importantly, Johnny made it clear to Lily that she was now part of his extended family. "Whenever you need me," he told her, "I'll be there." For the first time since her mother's passing, Lily felt a flicker of hope. And as she hugged Johnny tightly, the wooden pendant dangling from her neck, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, things would get better. So, peace, peace. To peace, peace. As days turned into weeks, the small town began to buzz with whispers about Johnny Depp's unexpected presence. But Johnny wasn't there to bask in the spotlight. He was there for Lily. While he kept his visits to the town discreet, his efforts to transform the little girl's life were anything but small. Johnny made a point to stay close to Lily during this critical period. He didn't just provide financial support, he gave his time, his attention, and most importantly, his heart. Every morning he visited Mrs. Collins' home, greeting Lily with a warm smile and often a small gift, a book, an art set, or even a hand-knit scarf he'd found in a local shop. These gifts weren't extravagant, but thoughtful, tailored to Lily's budding interests and personality. One afternoon, Johnny took Lily to a local children's center he had helped refurbish. The once dilapidated building now stood vibrant, its walls painted with cheerful murals, its shelves lined with books and toys. The center, renamed in honor of Lily's late mother, the Sarah Hope Center. Sighing happily, Lily relaxed his mouth, then decided to speak aloud for the first time. Sarah Hope Center. As Lily stepped inside for the first time, her eyes widened with wonder. Is this? Johnny knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. It's for you and every child who needs a safe place to play, learn, and dream, he said. Your mom's kindness inspired this. Her love for you deserves to be remembered. Lily's face lit up with a smile that Johnny hadn't seen since the funeral. She ran to explore the center, her laughter echoing through the hall. For Johnny, it was a moment of profound fulfillment, proof that his actions were making a real difference. But Johnny's mission didn't stop there. He arranged for Lily to attend a private school in the nearby city, ensuring she would receive the best education possible. He worked closely with Mrs. Collins to make the transition smooth, reassuring her that all her expenses would be covered. I'm not taking her away from you, Johnny told Mrs. Collins over tea one evening. You'll always be a part of her life, but I want to make sure she has every opportunity to thrive. Mrs. Collins nodded, tears welling in her eyes. You've given her a chance that none of us could have dreamed of. Thank you, Mr. Depp. As Lily prepared for her first day at her new school, Johnny surprised her with a small but meaningful gesture. He handed her a leather-bound journal with her name engraved on the cover. There was a very brief moment of silence before the beep started up. Then the word began. This is for your dreams, your thoughts, anything you want to write down, Johnny explained. Whenever you feel alone or scared, just remember, you're stronger than you think. Globe, 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 onions cut. Lithonic. The first few days at the new school were challenging for Lily. She was shy and uncertain, intimidated by the unfamiliar faces and the structured environment, but Johnny made sure to be there for her every step of the way. He called her daily to check in, offering words of encouragement and advice. Change is hard, he told her during one call, but every day you'll get stronger. And remember, you're never alone. Slowly, but surely, Lily began to adjust. She made friends, joined the art club, and even started excelling in her classes. Her teachers noted her intelligence and resilience, often marveling at how far she'd come in such a short time. Meanwhile, Johnny continued to visit the town regularly. He developed a close friendship with Mrs. Collins, who became like a surrogate grandmother to him. Together, they often reminisced about Sarah, sharing stories that painted a vivid picture of her life and her love for Lily. As the months passed, Lily blossomed into a confident and happy child. Her laughter returned, filling the air with a sense of joy that had been absent for so long. She began to dream again, of becoming an artist, of traveling the world, of making her late mother proud. For Johnny, seeing Lily thrive was the greatest reward. He didn't see himself as a hero or a savior. He simply saw a little girl who deserved a chance. And he was determined to ensure that she had everything she needed to build a bright future. But Johnny's impact extended beyond Lily. His presence and actions inspired the entire community. The Sarah Hope Center became a hub of activity, providing resources and support to families in need. The story of his kindness spread far and wide, touching the hearts of people across the nation. One evening, as Johnny and Lily sat under the stars outside Mrs. Collins' home, Lily turned to him with a question that caught him off guard. "Why do you care so much, Johnny?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. Johnny looked at her for a moment, his eyes filled with emotion. "Because when I see you, Lily, I see hope. I see a chance to make the world a little better, one person at a time." Lily nodded, her small hand reaching for his. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Johnny squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for reminding me what really matters." In that moment, under the vast night sky, they both knew they had found something rare and beautiful. A bond that transcended loss and pain, built on love, hope, and the unshakable belief in second chances. Months turned into a year, and the small town became a living testament to the power of kindness. Lily was thriving in her new school, her once shy demeanor replaced with a quiet confidence that made her teachers and peers admire her. The Sarah Hope Center, bustling with activity, had become a symbol of unity and hope for the community, bringing people together in ways no one had thought possible. For Johnny Depp, the journey with Lily had not only transformed her life, but had also profoundly impacted his own. He had come to the town intending to honor a promise, but he had found something far more meaningful. A renewed sense of purpose. Dale Tatil. One sunny afternoon, Johnny received a special invitation. Lily's school was holding an art exhibit, and one of her paintings had been selected for display. It was her first public recognition, and she was bursting with excitement. Johnny wouldn't have missed it for the world. When he arrived at the school auditorium, he was greeted by the sight of children proudly showcasing their work. Lily's painting was front and center, a breathtaking depiction of a mother and daughter holding hands beneath a sky filled with stars. The title of the piece was simple yet profound: "Forever in the Stars." As Johnny stood in front of the painting, his heart swelled with pride and emotion. "It's beautiful, Lily," he said, turning to her. "It's for Mom," Lily whispered, her voice filled with love. "She told me once that no matter what happens, she'd always be watching over me. I wanted to paint something that shows that," she said. "De mastidios, no morles temptes, sensation intensi." Johnny knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "She would be so proud of you, Lily. I know I am." The exhibit was a resounding success, and Lily's painting became the highlight of the event. That evening, Johnny and Lily returned to Mrs. Collins' home, where they celebrated with a small party. Mrs. Collins had baked her famous apple pie, and the three of them sat around the table, sharing stories and laughter. As they talked, Lily brought out the leather-bound journal Johnny had given her. "I've been writing in this every day," she said, opening it to a page filled with neat, colorful handwriting. Johnny leaned closer to read. The page was titled, "Dreams for the Future." Among the entries were, "Become an artist," "Travel to Paris," and "Help other kids like me." The last one, Johnny said, pointing to the line, "is the most important dream of all." "Si Boujon," Charlie read aloud. Lily nodded solemnly. "I want to make a difference, like you did for me." Johnny's eyes glistened with emotion. "You already are, Lily, more than you know." Over time, Johnny's bond with Lily and the town grew even stronger. He continued to support the Sarah Hope Center, expanding its programs to include art therapy, tutoring, and family support services. His involvement inspired others to contribute, creating a ripple effect of generosity and kindness. One day, as Johnny prepared to leave for a film project, Lily handed him a small envelope. "Open it later," she said, with a shy smile. When Johnny reached his hotel that night, he opened the envelope to find a drawing of himself and Lily standing in front of the Sarah Hope Center. Beneath the drawing were the words, "Thank you for being my family." Johnny stared at the drawing for a long time, his heart full. In Lily, he had found a connection deeper than blood, a connection rooted in love, compassion, and shared dreams. Connection, the son love kissed. Years later, as Lily grew into a successful artist, she never forgot the man who had stepped into her life when she needed it most. She dedicated her first gallery to her mother and Johnny, honoring their impact on her life. The gallery's opening night was attended by hundreds, including Johnny, who stood by her side with pride. In his speech that night, Johnny said, "Lily's story reminds us that no act of kindness is too small. Sometimes, all it takes to change a life is to care. And when we do, we end up changing our own lives too." The audience erupted in applause, but Johnny only had eyes for Lily. She smiled up at him, her gratitude shining brighter than the lights in the room. She had waited too long to be revealed, and too long for him to escape. The bond they had forged through tragedy and triumph became a testament to the enduring power of love. Together, they proved that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance for hope, healing, and new beginnings.